Thank you for coming. We're going to look at kind of just the intro into the MYP framework and assessment. If you attended this session last year, it'll just be review for you. If you did not, then this will be new, and we'll have some questions as we go along. Elizabeth Cauldron is going to film the open door session, and we're trialing to see how that works out and posting it after with the PDF of the PowerPoint. So it's the initial stage of trying something new, but we'll see how it goes. So just so you know, I'll probably be presenting from this corner a little bit, just so that I'm by the mic. So understanding the MYP framework and assessment. And now this isn't going to work for me. I can take it from. Okay, I will be walking back and forth, that's okay. So the agenda is the MYP curriculum model, concept-based learning, and assessment in the MYP, and then we'll have time for questions and answers. If there's a question that comes up during the presentation, please just let me know, but we will leave some time at the end. So the MYP curriculum model is based on a written curriculum, assessed curriculum, and a taught curriculum, and you can see that it's a triad, so it's continuous with those three components. They are not separate, they all work together. This is embedded in part of the learning experience for our students. The integration of student assessment within the MYP starts very early on in the planning process. So every aspect is connected to the overall learning and assessments for students. So making sure they understand the formal, comprehensive, and written documents. For these elements, documents such as subject curriculum outlines and unit planners are developed. So these, as I said, always work together within the MYP curriculum model to make sure that students are getting a very broad educational experience. This is great for parents that have just had their students move up from the PYP and now they're in the MYP. The MYP about 2 to 3 years ago brought in what they called the next chapter, and now we are in the chapter. So the next chapter has been turned into the chapter. And with those changes to the MYP, alignment with the PYP was increased. So you can see that these 4 points show you the connections between the two programs now. So as students are moving up from the PYP, they're moving up into similar aspects within the MYP. So there's really that consistency now for students to understand within their learning of a concept-based framework. So what drives concept-based learning? What are the learning goals, and how does it help to build the rubrics that students are assessed with? So a concept-driven curriculum helps the learner construct meaning through improved critical thinking and the transfer of knowledge. As I said before, sorry, not quite yet. That's okay. As I said before, the MYP is a concept-based learning framework. Students are required to think critically, transfer knowledge from familiar to unfamiliar situations, and make connections to the personal, local, and global environments. Concepts can be bridged over subject curriculum and also into real-life situations. The exploration and re-exploration of concepts leads students towards deeper understanding of the subject group, appreciation of ideas that transcend disciplinary boundaries, and engagement with complex ideas and not just the factual recall. So we're going to move into a little activity so you can really experience what I'm talking about. The first, we're just going to be looking at a few slides. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds on each slide to just read what patterns emerge in terms of what students need to be successful for their future in the 21st century. So there will be a quiz at the end of these slides, so please take note of what you're reading. And as I said, I'm only going to give you about 30 seconds per slide, so you will have to be quick on your reading. So I'm going to pause and let you turn to someone beside you, and you can discuss what were the patterns and consistencies among all the authors in regard to 21st century skills, and what implications for instructional practice can you draw from these authors. So I'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes, maybe not the full 3 minutes, just to discuss those. Remember, there is a quiz next, so you might want to take this opportunity to discuss.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? Good, hi. Yeah, I know, yeah, we did. At the field trip. Yeah, yeah. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, yeah. Apparently.
Give you about 1 more minute.
I already feel like I'm going back to school with all the homework I'm having to help with these days.
Great, maybe just finish your final discussion point that you're having. Okay, so now for the quiz. Oh, you skipped 2. Yeah, now for this quiz. 20th century assessment quiz. Name 3 instructional practices suggested by Mike Schumacher. That's 18 points altogether, 6 points each, if you can name 3 of them. What did Lynn Erickson and Tony Wagner say were important 21st century skills? That's worth 10 points. And who is Tony Wagner? That's worth 12. With a total of 40. Anyone like to attempt the quiz for me? No? Any volunteers to try to complete it? Okay, so obviously I didn't give you enough time to be able to answer this quiz, but this is also the old method of learning within schools, right? Give students information to read, ask them to try to memorize it, and then just the regurgitation of factual information with those questions. So this is the old method that we're not using, that the MYP and the IB obviously do not support. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to change it a little now. I would have obviously given you a bit more time to read those quotes, and I would have given you more time to discuss with partners and groups. But then I would ask, now analyze and justify how the skills described by the authors will prepare students for their future in the 21st century. And we would start breaking that down. So if I could have some of you state the patterns you saw, that would be great. Some of you might be able to describe the skills students need. Some of you might be able to explain why you think these are important. Some of you might be able to analyze to what extent students currently experience these skills. And finally, justify why these skills might become the focus of instruction and assessment. And you can see on the right-hand side, the levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 also align with those terms of state, describe, explain, analyze, and justify, allowing students to see their progression in their learning. So yes, students definitely need facts to progress and to learn, but what can they do with those facts? If they only can regurgitate that information, they're really never going to move to the describe, explain, analyze, or justify. So taking that understanding and transferring it from the familiar to unfamiliar doesn't happen. So in a concept-related framework, rubrics can be built to measure the depth of understanding and assess all 3 learning goals. So we look at state as the acquisition. We look at describe as it says. Explain is the meaning making. So why is it important? What is the connection? How do students make that connection with it? And the analyze and evaluate is the pros and cons, so now the transfer. And these 3 learning goals of acquisition, meaning making, and transfer are really important to a student's learning and growth as an individual. Because if they're not able to take that and put it into other situations, they'll never make those connections for themselves. Before we move on, is there any questions about that little activity or the 3 learning goals that I described there? It helps break it down, so when you get the rubrics that are more in depth and we'll look at it, if you really look at it as those 3 learning goals and have that conversation with your child, it really does break that down for them and for you to be able to have that discussion about where they could maybe improve.
Is this any different than the approach with the PYP?
Very similar now.
Okay.
Yeah, very similar. So with the PYP and MYP, with the next chapter brought in for the MYP, things align very well now. Yeah, which makes it a lot easier as students transition. So assessment in the PYP, the objectives, criterion-related assessment, and assessment for learning. So in the MYP, we have initial to final objectives. So we have year 1, which is the initial objectives, year 3, which is the interim, and year 5, which is the final. With your year 2 and 4, that is, as a school, you decide where those grade levels might fit within those objectives. So at Mulgrave, our year 1 is our grade 6 and 7s. Our year 3 is grade 7 to 9, depending on the subject area. And year 5 is grade 9 to 10. The objectives, provides teachers with a clear understanding of what students should be able to obtain by the end of the year. So these objectives really state for our teachers in a year 1, at the end of year 1 of grade 6 or 7, students should be able to do this before they move into the year 3 interim objectives, before they move into the final objectives. So I also wanted to show you this because I think it's really important to see the difference between traditional grading and criterion-related grading, which MYP uses as the criterion-related grading. Students always have the opportunity in criterion-related grading to improve on their work, to improve on their understanding. Criterion-related approach represents a philosophy of assessment that is neither norm reference nor criterion reference. Students understand assessment expectations, standards, and practices which teachers can introduce early and naturally within the learning environment. And I think the last point's really important on this chart is in traditional grading, the final grade is averaged over time. So it's percentages, it's averaged, that's what the student gets. Criterion-related grading is the final grade represents the most recent, consistent performance against criterion at the end of the course. So we're really looking for the most recent and most consistent from our students, right? We want them to get the feedback, be able to apply the feedback and improve, and we want to see that progression from them. So it's always going to be the most recent and most consistent, not an average over the year. This is the MYP assessment criterion across subject groups. So teachers use the MYP objectives that are prescribed to their subject group. Each subject group has 4. I've also included MYP projects in interdisciplinary just so that you can see the alignment within MYP. Each subject area has 4 criterion, as I said, to a max of 8 points. The alignment of all subject areas, you can see that the A is all very similar for all subject areas. The B is all similar, C is all similar, D is all similar. So using language, thinking critically for D, reflecting, they're all connected now, which makes that for students and teachers, the alignment a lot easier for them to go from subject to subject and understand all the criterion that they have in those subject areas. Teachers have to assess each criterion at least twice over the year, although our teachers usually are assessing that more than twice. But that from an MYP IB perspective, it has to be at least twice. This is an example rubric of individuals and societies, year 1, criterion A, knowing and understanding. Individuals and societies is what you may know it as social studies if you're not, if you have not heard the terminology yet as individuals and societies. You can see how each band in this rubric builds on students and where they should be capable of. And the bold words here are the words that we call our command terms. So So in each rubric, in each subject, there will be bolded words, which are the command terms that students will be exposed to through the PYP, MYP, and DP. And they're consistent words that the IB uses to describe their progression within subject areas. Students will always be provided with rubrics before they hand in an assignment so that they can have a discussion with teachers, with parents, with their peers about what each level is really looking for and what they need to provide in that assignment or in that test to achieve the level that they would like. We really want to focus on the descriptors when we're having conversations with our child or students, because those are the aspects that will help their improvement. The levels, yes, definitely tells us something, but it's really those descriptors that allow the progression in their learning. Each task will be given a task-specific rubric. This is the general rubric that is stated for year 1, but each task will have a specific rubric as well. So you may see your child come home with a rubric like this, and then another band on the side that's task-specific, what they're looking for within that task. So this is an example of 3 students, student X, Y, and Z. And I have criterion A, B, C, and D. Again, it's for individuals and societies. And this is before reporting period or at the end of the year, but they've had a chance to show their most consistent and their most current work. And so you can see that student X got a 2 for criterion A, a 3 for criterion B, a 2 for criterion C, and a 1 for criterion D, giving them a total of 8 points from a possible 32. We look at Y, you can see they got 16, Z, they got 30. So this allows you to kind of see how that looks at the end of the year or before a reporting period with the most consistent and most current. Student X may have had 3 assignments within that criterion, maybe 2, maybe 4, maybe 2. So they've had time to show their progression within each criterion. So what does this tell us? Okay, so if we move to the next slide, it shows us the MYP general grade boundaries. So if we look at student X again, who got 8 points, we can see now they got 8 points. So we know that they're in this range here, and we can now read what that descriptor says about a level 2 and really focus on that. So we know produces work of limited quality, expresses misunderstandings or significant gaps in understanding for many concepts and contexts, infrequently demonstrates critical and creative thinking, generally inflexible in the use of knowledge and skills, infrequently applying knowledge and skills. So now this descriptor really tells us what that student's level is, what that student needs more support with, and how we're going to support them to progress so they can move out of that level 2 band. If we look at student Y, they got a total of 16 points. So they would be, on the IB grade, a level 4. Again, it tells us the descriptor for that. And student Z got a total of 30 points, and they're at our top band as a level 7. So what does this mean to us, the level 1s to 7? What are we really looking for from our students? And this is a good scale that we use for parents and students on what we would like to see. And you can see that a level 3 is meeting expectations. And as the year starts, a lot of students may be at a level 3. They may come home with assignments at a level 3. And they're meeting expectations because they're still learning and progressing. Level 5 would be exceeding, and obviously anything above that. Level 7s are not like this big, like never going to achieve. Some students do achieve a level 7, but if we go back to the descriptor of a level 7, you know exactly what we're looking for within the classroom, within their assignments, and within their work. right? So it is something that's not going to happen right away, but it's not something that doesn't happen. Because I know there's a myth out there that sometimes level 7s just aren't something that students can earn. They can, but there's a lot that needs to be put into their work, and it's a progression. When students start to earn level 7s, they've progressed through the MYP, through the PYP, and they really understand what the teacher and their learning is looking for. Before we move on, is there any questions about those slides that I just shared?
So I've heard it said that typically if the student is showing through the first few evaluations a level of work that aligns with that level 2, for example, that it would be addressed well before the end of the school year.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, communication home from teachers if students are, if students are getting, even though level 3 is meeting expectations, you'll probably hear from their teachers because we want to make sure they're progressing sooner than later. So we don't want to wait till a report card comes out for you to know that they're at a level 3 and maybe do need, even though it's meeting, they still maybe need a little support. So the communication from teachers will be immediate, especially if they get a level 1 or 2. Definitely. It's, as I always say, it's a triad for our students' progress. It's the teacher, parent, and student that allows the student to be successful. And that communication cycle always needs to be continuous. And that goes for parents too. If you're unsure, teachers want to hear from you. They want to know your questions. They want to be able to answer those. So don't ever hesitate on that as well. So a change this year that you will see, and we'll go into this again if you attend the open door session on MYP report cards, but is this year the student's report card will contain an ATL grade for 3 specific learning skills. So there will no longer be an effort grade of E, S, I, or U. It will be based now on 3 ATL skills. These grades will provide a profile of each student's development in their organization, collaboration, and self-improvement skills. Each teacher will provide a judgment of your child's development in each of these areas, and students will also have frequent opportunities to self-assess their progress against each of these areas of academic development. So this is what you will see on the report card now in what we're using: requiring support, emerging, using, modeling. And I'll just give you a moment there to read those descriptors. Yes. Approaches to learning skills. Sorry. I will PDF this and send it out in Connections this week. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And this will also be when you get the interim report in November, Progress 1. This will all be within that report card as well. So there will be an explanation just like this with the report card. So with the concept-driven curriculum that uses the approaches to learning skills effectively enables students to become stronger and more self-regulated learners. So by having the ATLs now instead of the effort grade, it really starts to allow that immediate feedback, that conversation. Parents now know that students may be able to do things, but they need support. Or maybe they are modeling it and they are a self-regulator and they know exactly what they need to do to be successful. So it really allows a more open, in-depth conversation for students and parents and teachers, so that we really can start to support that progress within their own personal skill development as well as their academic skill development.
Are there specific classes where they learn about approaches to learning?
Yeah, so life and learning skills, they learn about them, but in all classes, they will be integrated within those subject areas now. And Michael Moore, who will be doing an open door in the new year on 21st century learning skills, will really go in depth into what the approaches to learning skills are and how we've worked as a school to really map out some of those skills. This is a sample of what you'll see also with the report card. So organization, managing time and tasks effectively. You can see the descriptors that we're looking for from students. So arrives to class on time and with necessary equipment, maintains an organized system of digital files and or notebooks, meets expectations related to academic deadlines, manages technology appropriately and effectively, uses class time effectively. So if we go back to the previous slide, then you could see if we're working with students that require support, that would be the feedback based on those descriptors. And a very common thing I hear, especially when students first come into grade 7, is the organization. They don't know where anything is. They go on their computer to do work and they end up playing a game. So then we can say, well, you're absolutely right, they are. They're in my class with support, they're able to do this, but yes, they need support still because they're learning how to self-regulate that.
Seems though like in grade 6, a lot of that's being put on them right now. Right?
Definitely, yeah. So a great thing that's helped with the transition for students from grade 6 to 7 is that grade 6 is MYP now. And so the common language, the common framework that they're being taught now in the classroom will now transcend in, yeah. So, yeah, it's great that we are grade 6 to 10 now for MYP.
I just hope we don't have to go through it all again. They'll remember some of it.
I won't guarantee that. You probably will have to go through some of it again, because when they do come to grade 7, they increase how many teachers they have and subjects that they need to kind of be focused on with different teachers. But I would say we've seen an improvement even just with running the Digital Literacy Week this year and seeing that the grade 6 already knew how to set up their Google Docs with folders and with assignment titles. So that is definitely starting to roll down from grade 6, which is great. And then you can also see the learner profile attribute that we tie into each of those, which is important as well. So the Mulgrave Middle School Handbook goes over everything per subject area, the approaches to learning skills. It is the manual of all manuals that we could possibly have out there, and that's on the website. That is also a short link there if you want to take a picture of it. But it is on the website under middle school. And this has every kind of answer that you may need. Obviously, as I said, please feel free to email me if you have a question and you can't find the answer. But this is a great resource if you are looking for something like, what is criterion A in English? It would be here in this handbook.
It's actually on a page that everyone should be quite familiar with. If you go onto the parent portal of our website and then go to middle school, right below it, nested is middle school resources. And it's not just the handbook, it's the legal active handbook, it's also the help sessions and the academic calendars. So if you haven't visited that page, please do and bookmark it because you'll visit it regularly.
Especially for grade 6 parents, this would be under middle school, not the junior school. So that's just something to take note of as well, because for grade 6, they're MYP, but under the junior school umbrella. So
What about
grade
grade 10?
10, same thing. You would want to go into the middle school for the handbook. Yes, yeah. I think there's just a couple people just getting the link down.
So it's under, you just go to parent portal.
So sign in, yeah.
Sign in.
Middle school resources, and it's right there. Yeah, and it's all listed on the left-hand side once you're in middle school. With the PDF I send out in Connections, I'll also include the link as well so that it can take you directly there so you can see where it is in Parent Portal if you are having troubles.
Even with this link, you will need to sign in.
Yes,
It'll
yeah,
prompt you for
yeah.
sign in.
Great. So just some important dates that I always like to share at the first open door sessions are the report card timelines. So progress number 1 is Friday, November 6th. Progress number 2 is Friday, February 12th. And final report card is Tuesday, July 5th. For progress 1 and 2, you will get a Google Doc report card sent from your child's advisor teacher, which has every subject rubric with highlighting. And then with the final report card, you will only just get the PCR transcript sheet. So for Progress 1 and 2, you get a Google Doc report and a transcript. Final, just the transcript. And the open door session on report cards will go more into detail on what that looks like and the conversations you can have with your child around the report cards. So next open door is this Wednesday, September 29th. And it's with Tony Wilson, and he's going to be talking about CAS, eFolios, student services. He'll also quickly kind of just show you about the calendars a little bit. He does ask you if you could bring a cell phone or a laptop because it will be interactive. So as he's explaining things, he'll want you to be following along and doing that. This is a great opportunity to be able to understand the eFolios and how you can go on and make comments to your child's eFolio or ask them questions about things they might be posting. See if they are actually, part of Arts Council for their creativity action, which I'm sure they are, but they should be reflecting on it. So it's just a good way for you to be part of that process, because sometimes parents feel a little left out on the whole CAS aspect of their learning. So what are they doing for creativity, action, and service? What is their reflection around it? When they get into grade 10, they use their eFolio for their process journal, for their personal project. So it's a great learning opportunity so that you can be comfortable with that platform as well. Yes?
So can you briefly describe what CAS is?
CAS stands for Creativity, Action, and Service, and it is an IB requirement. CAS is a requirement of the DP, so grade 11 and 12, and we roll it down to the middle school, and it's called MyCAS. So basically, students need to be involved in what we call one major and one minor for each of those categories: creativity, activity, and service. And it's really building their portfolio of their interests. So what are they interested in? What would they like to commit to and be able to progress throughout their learning years of grade 6, on up to 12? The universities now are really looking for a student who is well balanced and has aspects to their life, but not kind of snapshots. So they want to know that students have been committed to something because they're really passionate about that interest, and they've continued on with that as they've gone through high school and into university. So that is what the CAS is.
So that's Wednesday. That
This
might be
Wednesday.
The 30th, right? I
Is
think
Wednesday the
that's-
30th?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And
Sorry,
then-
that's my mistake.
The other thing I would say, actually, I'm not gonna be here, but I think Gina will be. If the moderator could have the Wi-Fi password, if it's gonna
Yes,
be
yes.
interactive,
I'll make sure that you can get access to Wi-Fi.
because the coverage here is
Yep.
a little bit spotty.
Question, so if a CAS report is due tomorrow,
Mhm.
what exactly is expected
So,
at this stage?
So at this stage, advisors are looking for the initial thought process around their goals of their CAS. So what might they be interested in getting involved in? Have they talked to teachers who are in charge of those clubs? If it's animal welfare club, have they talked to them? Student ambassadors, have they come and spoken to me? And are they getting involved with that? Students might change their mind. They might be involved in a club for, a couple weeks and then decide this actually isn't for me. And that's okay, but then they need to set a new goal for what they might pursue. What we consider a major commitment would be over one term length. So say from now until February or February to June. Minors may be one day here and there. So maybe they helped at the Welcome Back barbecue. That would be considered a minor. So right now, advisors are just looking for the fact that they've thought about this and they're starting to pursue activities they could be part of.
And then is this the formal presentation, or how is this supposed to be presented tomorrow by the student, or is it supposed to be written? I wasn't clear on that.
For the
student.
it depends on the advisor teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, for what they've asked for. Most advisor teachers will just ask to see that they have it on their eFolio as a
Okay.
post.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is the CAS just for the senior grade?
It's for grades 7 to 12. Yeah, so CAS is a term that's more attached to grade 11 and 12 with DP, but we've rolled it down so we call the middle years MyCAS. Yeah.
Is that for the major service? So like 20 to
Yeah, that would be considered a major service for students. Yeah, if they did a meet-a-wee trip, so Ecuador, Nicaragua, I think are the trips, or Kenya for senior years. Yeah. Grade 6 will be exposed to this, but they're not expected to do as much as 7 to 12. Yeah. So grade 6s are using the platform as eFolio to continue with reflections, but they don't have the same mandates around what they need to be involved in. Great. And then we just have some time for questions, even if it's not related to the presentation, if there's something you're just not sure of.
I'd like to understand better what the role of the advisor is. What is
Sure.
the meeting like when they meet with the student? Are they in touch with the students, other teachers on certain things? I don't really know what
Sure.
is that?
Yeah. So for grades 7 to 12, students have an advisor. It's a multi-grade level grouping. So for middle school, it'd be 7 to 9. For senior school, it'd be 10 to 12. And there's a maximum of about 12 students per advisor teacher. So we have 18 advisor teachers in the middle school. The role of the advisor teacher is really to be that adult advocate for students. So if they have a social issue, an academic issue, the advisor teacher would be the one that would be stepping in to help support them. They would be communicating with parents on issues. Parents might be communicating with them. So again, it's that triad approach. Every second Wednesday, advisor teachers meet with their students on a one-to-one meeting time to go over their goals, to go over how they're feeling about school or social life, and really start to support and build that rapport with them as a relationship. On Monday and Tuesdays, they meet as a homeroom group. So all 12 of them would meet with their advisor teacher, and they start to build a community within that advisor grouping. So grade 9s start to support grade 7s, grade 8s are supporting grade 7s, grade 7s are supporting grade 8 and 9s because they're coming up from grade 6 where they've actually done some things that grade 8s and 9s haven't yet, and they're able to actually share that experience. So essential agreements, the grade 6s that are in grade 7 now have been through that process, or grade 8 and 9s haven't, and they were able to take leadership within their advisor groups of that. So your advisor teacher would be like what the homeroom teacher was like in junior school. Your main point of contact if you have a question or a concern, and that's the same for students. So subject teachers will CC advisor teachers on any emails that might go home if they have concerns. They also usually CC myself and Martin Jones, just so everyone's in the loop. If something comes up, say in family life, then we would let advisor teachers know so they could support that student in the advising as well as outside. So it's just that main point for students and parents.
And in terms of goals, like are you looking at would the advisor teacher be looking at the rubric, like, okay, you're in here and you're doing kind of this, and this is what, is that, like when you talk about goals, is that what you're talking
So
about? Or like
goal setting with advisor teachers are more general in the sense of what is your academic goal as a big picture. The rubrics and setting goals for subject areas would be done with that subject teacher. So the feedback from subject teachers, Mr. Olenek, who teaches grade 9 science, it might be, I only got a level 3 on this test. I really thought I was going to get a level 5. I studied so hard. I don't understand what I'm missing. They would sit down with Mr. Olenek to have that conversation so that they would be getting subject-specific feedback. If their advisor teacher is their teacher, then that also helps with that conversation. But for goal-setting conferences and the goals, they're more general. So how can I help you achieve your overall academic goal, your social goal, your MyCAS goal? Yes, exactly.
Sorry, do they have the same advisor from grade 7 to 9?
They do. So from 7 to 9, same advisor grouping. And then in grade 10, that changes. So they really start to build and are like a family because they're with each other. Grade 7's 3 years, they'll be with that advisor teacher.